When flowers dream of flying. In a meadow tucked between the arms of two gentle hills, there lived a garden full of wildflowers. Every day they bathed in golden sunlight, danced with the breeze, and listened to the songs of birds and bees. To an outsider, it would seem the flowers had everything they could ever want. But beneath their colorful petals, a secret dream stirred. Among them stood a young daisy named Luma. She wasn't the tallest or the brightest, but she had something no other flower had: imagination. At night, while the meadow slept under a blanket of stars, Luma would gaze at the sky and whisper to the moon, "What does it feel like to fly?" The wind would laugh softly, brushing her petals. "Flowers are made for the earth," the wind would say. "Roots in the ground, faces to the sun, that is your gift." But Luma wasn't satisfied. "Why do the birds get to fly?" she asked. "Why not us?" One night, she turned to her friend Maris, a quiet bluebell. "Do you ever wonder what's beyond the hills?" Luma asked. Maris sighed, sleepy. "I'm happy here, Luma. The bees bring us stories, the sun feeds us, and the rain sings lullabies. Why leave?" "Because dreaming isn't enough," said Luma. "I want to see the world from above." The next morning, Luma watched as a flock of swallows swooped across the meadow. One of them, a young bird named Koro, noticed her eyes following him. "You always look up, little flower," Koro chirped, fluttering down nearby. "Do you wish you could fly?" "Yes," Luma said eagerly, "more than anything." Koro tilted his head. "But you have roots. How would you fly?" "I don't know," said Luma, "but maybe someone can help me." Koro thought for a moment. "There is an old owl in the forest beyond the hill. They say he knows many things, perhaps even how to make a flower fly." Luma's petals quivered. "Could you take me to him?" Koro hesitated. "You're very light for a flower, but still, flying with you would be difficult. I'll speak to the owl and come back with his answer." That night, Koro returned with news. "The owl says flying is not just about wings," he said. "It's about letting go. He told me of the sky bloom, a legendary flower that once rose from the earth and sailed on the wind." "Was it real?" Luma whispered. "Legend says so. The sky bloom didn't grow roots like others. It bloomed only once, lifted by the breeze, and vanished into the clouds." "I want to be like that," said Luma. Maris overheard and gasped. "You'd leave the meadow forever?" "I have to try," Luma replied. "I want to feel the wind carry me." Over the next few days, Luma prepared. She listened to the wind, learning its currents. She asked dandelions how they let their seeds float. She spoke to the butterflies, who shared secrets of balance and grace. But no matter how much she learned, she remained rooted to the ground. One morning, a heavy storm rolled in. Most flowers bent their heads, sheltering themselves. But Luma stood tall, her petals open. "Wind," she cried, "if I cannot rise myself, will you help me?" The wind answered with a gust so strong it tugged at her stem, but her roots held firm. "Please," she begged, "just once, let me go." The wind hesitated. It had known Luma since she was a bud. She was different, curious, fearless, alive in a way most flowers were not. With a deep breath, the wind circled her, faster and faster, until Luma began to tremble. Then, with a final rush, the wind snapped her from the earth and carried her into the sky. Luma soared. At first it was terrifying. The world spun beneath her, fields and forests, rivers like silver ribbons, mountains that kissed the clouds. But soon, fear turned into wonder. She floated like a leaf, caught in a dream. Birds flew beside her, startled and amazed. "A flying flower!" a hawk exclaimed. "I've never seen such a thing." Luma laughed, her petals fluttering. "I'm Luma, the flower who dreamed of flying." Up and up she went, until the meadow was just a dot below. She passed over villages, lakes, even cities. Children looked up and pointed. Artists painted her in the sky. Poets wrote about the flying flower who defied her roots. But flight, like dreams, cannot last forever. As the wind began to tire, Luma felt herself drifting lower. Her stem had dried, and her petals were curling. The world that had once seemed magical now felt far away. She landed softly in a quiet field, far from home. Weary, she looked at the sky one last time. "Thank you," she whispered to the wind, "for giving me wings." Then she closed her eyes. Spring came to the quiet field, and with it, new life. From the spot where Luma fell, a small sprout emerged. It grew quickly, vibrant and strong. But it was not just any flower. It was a sky bloom. And this time, it didn't grow alone. The wind, touched by Luma's courage, carried her seeds far and wide. In meadows and hills, in cities and forests, flowers began to bloom with a strange sparkle in their petals. They too began to dream of flying. Back in the original meadow, Maris looked to the sky each evening. Sometimes, when the wind rushed through the flowers, she could almost hear Luma's laughter. "She did it," Maris would whisper. "She flew." And slowly, even the most rooted of flowers began to look up. Because one daisy had dreamed beyond the soil and proved that even those born with roots could rise toward the sky.